Hi everybody. So in this video I want to talk to you a little bit more about resistors. And in particular I want to go over the resistor color codes that allow us to identify how much resistance is in a particular resistor. But before we get into that, I want to review Ohm's law and introduce some circuit symbols. So you'll recall from our last video that one of the simplest circuits we can do is a battery. Of course, has positive and negative terminals, and a wire connecting those two terminals through a resistor. So you'll remember a battery supplies a particular voltage to the circuit, and that voltage pushes a current I through the circuit. Remember, we usually talk about conventional current, so that's the flow of positive charges through the circuit back around to the negative charges. And that resistance limits the amount of current. And we had Ohm's law. I was equal to the voltage divided by the resistance. So the current is created by the voltage and slowed down by the resistance. Now, this type of picture is often a little bit cumbersome to use, and so there's some circuit symbols that we use, particularly for the battery, to simplify the circuit a little bit. So let me clear the board and we'll talk about some of those simplified symbols. So oftentimes, instead of drawing that complex battery, what we usually do is, instead of a battery like this with positive and negative, we use the following circuit symbol. So this is the circuit symbol for a battery, with the long leg being the positive and that one being the negative. And instead of our complex circuit drawing where we've got the battery and resistor all the way around like that, we can instead simplify this like this. So we've got the battery, the resistor, and we could label the current if we like this. So this picture and this picture are equivalent to each other, where we've replaced this battery with the battery symbol. So I've redrawn our simple circuit using our circuit symbols. So we've got the battery voltage, the resistor, and the current. And you'll remember that the current is given by the voltage over the resistance. So one reason we use resistors is to limit the amount of current through the circuit. So by putting a bigger resistor in the circuit, we can limit the amount of current that flows through. If we reduce the resistor, that'll increase the amount of current flowing through the circuit. Now, resistors come in all different shapes and sizes, but I'll show you pictures of a couple of the most common ones that we're going to be using. And they come in sort of a tan package or a blue package, and we'll discuss the differences between these. You'll notice that in these resistors, they have these colored bands on them. And these colored bands correspond to the values of the resistors. So let me put up a chart here of the different resistor colors, and we'll talk through what they mean and how to read them and understand how much resistance is in a particular resistor. So here's the resistor color code, and you can see that each color corresponds to a different number, going all the way from 0 to 9. So we can use these numbers to express different resistor values. So the resistor I've got up here has 4 bands. Only the first 3 are relevant for our discussion here. The last one corresponds to the tolerance of the resistor, and we won't really get into that at this point. Typically tan colored resistors have these 3 bands, and this particular resistor has colors brown, black, and red. So what you do first is you take the first two colors, and the numbers that they correspond to are 1 and 0 for brown and black, so that's 10. The second number, red, corresponds to 2, and so that becomes the exponent of 10. So we've got our first two numbers, which are 10 times 10 to the second power, or 1,000. So this resistor has a value of 1,000, and the units of resistance are ohms, so this has 1,000 ohms of resistance. Now another way you'll typically see this, instead of 1,000, it might be 1 kiloohm, or sometimes referred to as a 1K resistor. So that's the brown resistors, or the 3-color code resistors. Let me show you the next kind of resistor, which is the 4-color resistor. So this is the 4-color resistor, and the colors we've got here, we've got red, red, black, and black. We read this essentially the same way. So red is 2, 2, and then black is 0, and the last one is 0. So this follows the same pattern, so 2, 2, 0 times 10 to the 0 power. Of course, 10 to the 0 power is 1, so this is simply a 220 ohm resistor. So this is how you read the 4-color resistors, and again, these are usually in blue packages to distinguish them from the 3-color resistors in the brown package. And again, there's really that extra color at the end that indicates the tolerance of the resistor, and so we won't really worry about the tolerance for right now. So this gives you a good introduction to how to read the color codes of resistors, allowing you to know the values of various resistors without having to use any kind of equipment.